Hey everyone, it's DeAnna from DeAnna Scraps, and I'm here with a process video for the Crafty Maven Getaway channel. And I am doing Scraplift Saturday. There were a couple of images at the beginning of the video. There was first the inspiration piece, which is how I how I came up with my color scheme. And then the second image was an image of the layout that I'm scraplifting. And I got that layout off of Pinterest, and I will do my best to remember to link it in the details below. So I'm sorry if my voice sounds really scratchy and my nose sounds stuff. I've been really sick, so you'll just have to bear with me. But I am scrapbooking a photo of it's actually an art piece or a drawing that my niece did of her sister. So they're both really into art and drawing, and they've been learning how to do faces and things like that. And my niece Allie, who's the youngest of all the niece and nephews, she drew this picture of her sister, and it's amazing. Like when you look at it, it almost looks like a regular photograph, and somebody just kind of put some different effects to it. Like you can add effects with different apps and things like that. I mean, it really does look like her. It's pretty amazing. So I'm scraplifting that. And the color scheme I took, like I said, from the inspiration piece for the week, and I was inspired to use the pinks and the oranges. And I really wanted to use that strip of paper there that has the different colors, and it has just a touch of blue at the top. So I decided to go ahead and use blue on the layout too, just a little bit of blue. I sewed up both strips of paper. So that one is corrugated, and I'm actually using my click kits, my most recent click kits. And I noticed that we do get corrugated paper every once in a while in the kit, and I try to use it as soon as I can, just because it's, I don't usually use colored cardstock, and so I like the corrugated paper though, so I try to use it as soon as I can. And in the kit there was a bunch of the cut apart sheets, and it's from that collection, that One Canoe, Two Canoe, I think it is. I'm probably saying that wrong, but there was a bunch of cut aparts that I really liked and I thought worked really well with the layout. So I'm trying to figure out what I'm going to use and piece it all together. The layout that I'm scraplifting had several layers underneath the photo, and one of the layers was almost tipped diagonally. It wasn't even a slight angle, it was a big angle. And so I wanted to make sure I did something there, because that really sparked my interest when I saw that on the layout. So eventually I will find a way to do that. There was also some torn paper on that layout, and so I tried to do that and it looked horrible. So I end up just cutting that and straightening it up, which was fine. I mean, it's really close to the words, but it doesn't matter because I just needed those words, and I even have the picture covering up a little bit of that, the word love, so it's fine. And here's where I'm going to do the angle. I'm just going to use the pink part of that cut apart. And here I'm adding some strips. These are just some different colored strips, and one has the blue flowers on it and the other one is green. I will eventually remove that green. I wasn't realizing that I was adding another color into the mix at the time that I did that, but eventually when I start to try and put some embellishments together, I will realize that I've added green, and I don't really want green in the color scheme, so I will end up changing that up. It took me a really long time to figure out the layers behind the photo. They're big, kind of chunky layers, and so I think that was part of the reason. Now, the layout that I'm scraplifting had some doodles on it. They were little dots that kind of bordered different parts of the layout, and I really liked that too, but my problem with it was I wouldn't be able to do that on the corrugated paper, and so I came up with a different way. I just decided to find some black, so some black paper that would, help with the contrast, which is what I think the doodled little dots did on the other layout. And I'll end up using, you saw me playing with it a little bit ago, but it's just a piece of, from the cut apart sheet of black paper with some white dots. It's right there. And I'll end up putting that in 3 different places to just kind of help ground the layout and bring in all of the pieces together. And earlier I had used a circle punch to punch through that corrugated paper. It didn't go all the way through, but I was able to cut it pretty easily with a scissor. And now I'm just trying to figure out how I want to put this black strip. And I put one down there and then one on the side of the photo, and so that works out perfect. So it's interesting because, you know, there was a lot that really inspired me from the layout, and it is a Scraplift, but the layout turns out, I think, pretty different than the one that I Scraplifted. I mean, for instance, my photo is bigger, and, you know, the clusters and the layers were, not the clusters, but the layers that are behind the photo are bigger, I think, than was used in the original layout. And I think she had a lot more embellishments going up and down the middle piece, and so I don't have as many. I sped this up really quick. This is where I realized that I had added that green in there. I was kind of playing around with some of the embellishments, and I had like a heart, a green heart, and some different green things, and I was like, wait a minute, I didn't want to add another color in here, so that's where I removed that part. So now that I have most of my paper pieces down, I'm going to start playing around with the embellishments, and I do fiddle a little bit with this too because I wanted the cluster at the top to be big like the one in the photo. And when I say big, I mean not the one in the photo, the one in the layout that I'm scraplifting. Sorry, I just kind of messed that up. But it's not that it's big, it's just that it's more than just a tiny cluster, and it kind of comes out into the layout a little bit. So I wanted to add a little bit of pink here, and I'm going to use the other piece that I cut in half. I'm going to use that at the top of the cluster, which just gives a nice little ledge for the butterfly and the heart to be on. And these are the embellishments that came in the Click Kit. This is the first layout that I've done with it, so you can kind of get an idea of how many you get. There's also a sheet of the butterfly rub-ons, an alphabet sticker sheet, so some thickers, and then some enamel dots. So I found a few pieces that work. I do end up changing this a little bit, but it's just kind of where I'm playing with it. I'm adding some gold with that lovely, and then I found that heart, and I was looking for a third piece. The only thing I could find at the time was a gold key, and that didn't work for me, but later I find another gold piece that was in the mix that will show up on the layout. And I added a few of the, here I'm adding those now, the flowers, flower die cuts, and I thought those look nice underneath the layers. I'm adding pop dots to the parts that are not on the corrugated piece. It's a little, I use the thinnest ones I have, but I don't really need that much of a lift, but it's okay. It works out fine. Now here's the other piece that I found, and I don't want to have the word today. So I pulled from my stash some phrase stickers, and this one here that says beautiful covers that today perfectly. So I'm just putting that there. That way I'm going to have gold up in the top cluster there, above the photo and on the side of the photo. So again, just kind of bringing the photo in to the layout along with that cluster up top. And here are the butterfly rub-ons. I actually ended up with 2 packs of these because I got one in my Click Kit and I got one in my Hip Kit. So I have lots of butterfly rub-ons to play with, and they're really gorgeous. So I'm going to add a couple on the layout. and I do fiddle with how I'm going to do this, but I like to have these butterflies looking like they're flying up, not always just, like flying at an angle in the wind. And then I'm going to add a couple more. I want to add one into the papers that are layered behind the photo. And I was struggling with it, but I do end up finding a place to put one. And I don't know if I actually recorded that or not. I think it just shows up in one of the next shots. But I'm going to end up adding a couple more of these sayings here. And I don't like the pink that is, it kind of matches the butterfly up there, I guess. So it probably would have been fine. But most of the pink is kind of a peachy pink. So I end up cutting most of that off on this one. And that was fine because there was plenty above and below the top and the bottom of the words. And then I found another one to add there and one up into the cluster. I'm not sure what I'm doing here. Oh, I think I had thought I was done with the layout, but then I was like, wait, I didn't do the journaling. So I went off camera and I did the journaling, and that is the end of the layout. So it's just a couple still shots, and I hope you enjoyed, and I will catch you next time.